Alright, now I want to do a quick combo video showing this combo I came up with using these three cards right here. So it's using, so basically using the Maiden of Trailing Rambling Rose, the Legion, the Exploding Tomato, and then Maiden of Gladiolus. So the assumption is, here's how you would start. You have, we're assuming that you have 4 cards in your drop zone. So you can't really see that. 4 cards in your drop zone, so you can Legion. That you have at least 3 damage, and then 2 force markers. So 2 force markers is fairly easy to get, depending on how long the battles go for premium. If you're facing some kind of rush deck or something that's like not like too stally, like if you're facing something other than Gizeh and Bermuda Triangles, or maybe like a rush like I don't know, Blaster Blade Rush or something like that, like OTK, you're able to get to 2 rides. But just if you didn't have the force markers, you could still attack for some numbers, but the force markers just make it so each attack is just 10,000 more. So just very good to have. So let's start the turn. We would say that we ride a Rambling Rose. And we're not going to use Rambling Rose's second effect, where it's when it's placed on Vanguard, Soul Blast 2, and duplicate one of your grade 1 or less rear guards, because we don't have any rear guards right now. But then we're going to use her act ability to Legion, so we'll take 4 cards and throw them back in our deck. And then we will take her Legion make. We will seek the mate. Where is it? Maiden of Trailing Rose. There we go. And we'll give it a shuffle. So now we're Legioned. So we have Maiden of Trailing Rose's effect activates when she's placed on Vanguard. You could call up to 2 plant tokens. So now we have 1, and then we'll call the second one here. And now, since we Legioned, her first effect was on standby for Maiden of Rambling Rose. Her effect is you can discard 1 card from your hand. So we would obviously need another card in our hand to do this effect. So you need to start off with 4 cards in your hand minimum. So we discard a card from our hand. So when this Legioned, pay the cost, search your deck for up to 2 cards with the same name as one of your Vanguards. Call 1 to rear guard, 1 goes to your hand. So we'll do Rambling or Trailing Rose. There's our other one. Oops. And we'll shuffle. Give it a cut. There we go. So 1 would go to our hand, so we add 1 to our hand. The other one gets to be placed on rear guard, so we'll place it here. So then our next step, we would then call our 2 key combo pieces. So this is going to be in our hand. I'll put it down here for now. So Exploding Tomato and Gladiolus. It doesn't matter which side you call them to, so I'll just do it like this. So now they're both under a force marker. So we'll start the combo. So it's using Gladiolus effect when she's boosted. Counterblast 1, choose one of your rear guards, and then you can call a unit from your deck with the same name. So we want to use that as much times as possible. So we can use it a minimum of 3 times to get 7 attacks. If we want to use, or I guess 1 time is your minimum, but we want to use 3 of her to get her attack out, to get out 7 attacks. So we'll attack with her. So together with plant token, that would be 14k. So with the force marker, it's 24,000. You'd counterblast 1, search your deck for a copy of her. Here's a copy. We would call it on top of her after she attacked. We'll give a quick shuffle. So then we would call it there. We would retire this. That goes to our drop zone. Get that back in frame. And then now we would attack with Exploding Tomato. Exploding Tomato is 13, with the plant token is 20 or 18, and then force marker is 28. So first attack was 24, now 28. And then Exploding Tomato's effect is when he attacks, you can retire him and then call 2 plant tokens to the rear guard in the back row. So we'll retire him. He attacked. We'll then call 2 new plant tokens. So we'll use these. So 2 new plant tokens in the rear guard, the back row. So we'll retire the old ones, get rid of those. So now we have 2 standing back row, and now we can do Gladiolus again. So this is our 3rd attack. Gladiolus attack for 24,000. You would counterblast one. You would copy a version of her. So here we go. Do a quick shuffle. And then Gladiolus, you'd want to call her to the open rearguard circle. So that's our third attack for 24. Here's our fourth attack for 24 as well. Gladiolus effect again. You would counterblast one. Choose one of your rearguards. This time we're going to choose Trailing Rose. We should still have one more copy left in deck. We do not. Where's our fourth copy? So let's see. So we have one copy in soul, one there, one copy here. So that's 3, and then one copy in hand. So we can't do that, but if we didn't have her copy in soul, we would call her here, and then you would use her effect. When called on rearguard, you would call a plant token. So that last Gladiolus would be our fourth attack. And then you could do plant token for 15, Trailing Rose for 23, and then your Vanguard Legion for 24 with Twin Drive. So this way you would get 7 attacks. So you could attack 7 times with this combo. And it makes it so, as a Neo Nectar deck, it's like you do have some early presence and early pressure on the field, especially with some of the grade 2 units that allow you to call out cards like, Elf Basket, or the Sylvia's your best example of that. It makes it so you can have some really good early game presence, and you could pressure your opponent for early game damage. But even here, you would have some late game presence. And the whole way to get this combo started is you just needed, well, for this one we used our Legion, but you wouldn't have to be on Legion. You can do this on any other grade 3 Vanguard. Your minimum you need is 1 Gladiolus, 1 Exploding Tomato, and then 1 Trailing Rose. So you just need these 3 cards in hand. So if you're, and you have to be at Generation Break 1. So that's why I have one unflipped right here. So, because a Gladiolus is Generation Break 1. So you need these 3 cards in your hand to do this combo. So, whatever way you can get these 3 cards, and then if you want to do 7 attacks, you need 3 damage on flip. But you can do 6 attacks or 5 attacks with 1 or 2 damage. So just these 3 cards to then do a combo that can get you 7 attacks, which each attack would be around 20,000. So your first attack would, with force markers, your first attack was 24,000. Your second attack was 23,000. Your third attack was 24. Fourth attack was 24. Fifth attack was 23. Sixth attack was 15. And then your seventh attack would be 24. So your lowest attack was 15,000. Second lowest would be your 23,000 attack. So you have 6 attacks that are over 23,000. The 23,000 are over. So it attacks any, it can hit numbers for any clan, especially force, even if they did have 1 defensive trigger during this time. And with some other units, if you used a stride ability, and if you did stride instead of use your Legion, it just makes it so you can do it. So the reason I Legioned is because it makes this deck more consistent, because Legion makes it so you can shuffle any key components that you would have in your drop zone into your deck. So if you had like Gladiolus in your drop zone, or you had Exploding Tomato in your drop zone, or even Trailing Rose in your drop zone, it makes it so you can shuffle key components back in your deck and then search out a Trailing Rose to then call plant tokens. So this was started with just, you had no rear guards, and now you made 7 attacks with, 9 or 10 rear guards. So you were able to actually utilize the effects of the V series and the effects of the old Premium G era stuff together. And it just works very well. And if you were to use this with some Bloom units, because these don't have to be plant tokens to start off with. To start off with, they just need to be a unit that can boost. So if you used a stride like, here you go, Verano, where she can call a unit from your deck and you give it boost. So she can give a grade 2 or grade 3 a boost ability. So you can use this with, you can make it so if you use Verano, if you did stride on Verano instead of that, you can make it so this Trailing Rose behind your Vanguard could actually boost your Vanguard for 13,000. So it just makes it so you can hit, not insane numbers, but very good numbers to any clan, and it's very consistent. having 4 of this in deck, you only run 2 Exploding Tomato. Yeah, you run 4 of the Trailing Rose, and you only run 3 of the Rambling Rose for the Legion, but you don't always have to Legion. It just makes it so it's more consistent. Getting the force markers is the hardest part for this combo. You're able to do this without force markers, but your numbers aren't hitting, not nearly as high, but they're not hitting that high. Like, this by itself without a force marker would only be 5,000. Even because this wouldn't be boosting it. You would only have 5,000 to attack. So you would have to get a defensive trigger or an offensive trigger from your Vanguard to then attack over. So yeah, then you would be able to get it. But if not, it wouldn't work. So I think it's a very simple combo. You just have to think about it. It's like if you plan ahead and if you can manage to get the right components into your hand, you're able to really pull it off. Like, the only hard part about pulling off the combo is actually getting Generation Break 1 and maybe some force markers on the field. If you're able to get good grade 3 draws and good grade 3 rides, then it's very easily to pull off. I mean, I always have trouble drawing into my grade 3s, but this deck is very consistent. It makes it, having 4 of Gladiolus makes it so even if you did have 1 in damage, like I was showing in the combo, you could still do this. 4 just makes everything better, more consistent. And the only unit in this combo, well, Exploding Tomato is not at 4. He's only at 2. So you can bump him up if you really wanted just to use Trailing Rose and Exploding Tomato instead of the Legion. This deck I'm using involves the Legion. So if you didn't use the Legion, your 3 cards that you would need to start off with would be these 3. You'd need Exploding Tomato, Trailing Rose, and then Gladiolus. So these 3 cards, you can then get a crazy 7 attack combo turn on your Vanguard, on your opponent. And this is, if you had 2 force markers, this would be a late game push. So you're already at Generation Break 1, because Gladiolus, you need to be Generation Break 1 to use her effect. So you're at Generation Break 1, you're at your 3rd grade 3 ride, or I guess 2nd, because you can do this on just a Trailing Rose ride. So I'll show it like that. Alright, so let's do it like this. Let's say you rode Cecilia, or whatever other force Vanguard. So you got a force marker here. And that was a turn before. Now for this combo, if you're not going to use the Legion Vanguard, you would need 2 copies of Rambling Rose if you want to ride her to get your next force marker. If not, you could just do it with these 3 cards and still be fine. So let's do it like this. So we'll ride Rambling Rose. We'll get our force marker, Imaginary Gift, and then we'll call 2 plant tokens to the rear guard. 1 here, 1 here. And now the effect, or the combo would go this exact same way. You would call this here and then call these 2 here. And then you need 3 damage here and 1 G-Zone unflipped. And then you would just go through the combo where you would attack with this. You would attack Gladiolus, use her effect, call another Gladiolus on top of her. Exploding Tomato, call 2 plant tokens here, call them stand. Gladiolus attack again, Gladiolus attack again, call a Trailing Rose here, token here, and then you would attack, and you'd have 7. So, very consistent combo. You can do it multiple ways. Your Vanguard isn't very specific. The only thing that does have to be there are these 3 things. You need 1 Gladiolus, 1 Exploding Tomato, and then 1 Trailing Rose. And any number of damage unflipped. So you can be 1 damage, if you only have 1 unflipped damage, you can do this combo to do 5 attacks. With 2 damage unflipped, you can do 6 attacks, and then 3 damage unflipped, you do 7 attacks. To specifically do the 7 damage, the 7 attack combo, you need 3 damage unflipped. But you can do it with, I wouldn't say any number of damage. You need at least 1 damage unflipped to do like a 5, 6, or 7 attack combo. So you just need these 3 cards. And the force markers just make it so the attacks hit for better numbers. They just hit for way more pressure. So